I'm Stacy and welcome to the Retro Time Machine. And today I'm going to show you how to make alcoholic flower jello. Today I'm going to show you how to make these amazing flower jello shots, and yes, it's all made out of gelatin. Alright, you're going to need quite a few items today. These are lids from frozen yogurt shops. You're also going to need a flavored vodka of choice. This is the rose vodka we made. I'll post a link to that video below. Gelatin, sugar, flavoring, and a cream liqueur of choice, and also these little flower making tools and syringes. I need these jello shots. We're going to be in an outside event, so I added 7 tablespoons of gelatin and bloomed that in cold water, 1 cup. I also needed 5 cups of sugar for this recipe. I used 5 cups of hot water, and I also used 2.5 tablespoons of citric acid. I wanted these to have a fun flavor to them. Go ahead and add your sugar into that hot water and your citric acid and mix that until the water becomes clear. The citric acid helps the gelatin be very crystal clear once it's all set. Go ahead and add that big old hunk of gelatin in there and slowly mix it up. You may get some particles left over. Just go ahead and fish those out with a fork, whatever doesn't dissolve. So a recipe this large calls for 4 cups of alcohol. I only had 3 because this is what I made, so I added a little bit of water to polish it off. Remove your gelatin from the heat to allow it to cool a bit, and we're going to grease the inside of these lids with coconut oil on a paper towel. It doesn't have to be very heavy or thick, but it will help the jello release from the molds when you dip it into the hot water at the end. When filling your gelatin molds with a clear solution, you want to make sure you leave just a little bit away from the line. That way we have a place to put our clear base in. And that'll help disguise all of the marks and little tiny holes that we're going to be making whenever we're doing the flower gelatin art. It also makes the background pop, so the flowers show through in an absolutely beautiful way. For the cream gelatin, you're going to need coconut milk, more gelatin, cream liqueur, and white food coloring, and don't forget your crazy color food coloring for your flowers. We're going to be using the coconut milk to bloom our gelatin in. You're going to need 4 tablespoons of gelatin, but I went out and dished it out in teaspoons, so that way I could get it evenly across the top surface and make sure everything got mixed in. It didn't get too lumpy, but it's definitely going to get lumpy because it's not water. Speaking of water, you're going to need 4 cups of hot water. Go ahead and take that interesting coconut gel mixture and dump it into the hot water and wait for it to dissolve. You can mix it a little bit, but it goes pretty smooth. We're going to add some white food coloring so it's not as beige, and a little bit of strawberry flavoring. For the alcoholic base of this, I decided to use a peaches and cream liqueur. It is absolutely wonderful, and go ahead and add that in. I realized it turned it a little bit more beige, so I did add in a bit more food coloring to that. In a few smaller containers, I added in some of that cream gelatin, and I picked my colors using toothpicks. I kind of use those to stir everything in. You want these colors to be pretty impactful, so you can dabble between using gel and liquid food coloring. I also colored the base topper and picked some nice neutral tones for those. Now that you have everything mixed up, you want to go ahead and put your colored gelatin into some containers with hot water to keep everything liquid and fill up your syringes. Scoop out a small portion in the center so you have somewhere to inject, and that way the color can pool there and you can scoop it out or wipe it out. You can pick whatever metal attachments you want, but since I'm working with smaller flowers, I'm using the smaller attachments. When starting the overall shape of your flower, you want to start off at a 15-degree angle and work up to a 45. If any of the gelatin pools in the center, you can always wipe that away with a napkin and keep going. When working on petal placement, you want your flowers to look organic as possible, so go through and lay the first row of flower petals down. Once you've done that, on the next row, you're going to go in the spaces in between and lay those petals out. Alternating color shades is a wonderful way to give rich depth to these flowers, and it's also really cool whenever you cut into them. Using larger metal tools at the end also gives that illusion that everything has bloomed. To create the pollen, I use a small blunt tip needle, and that just gives a great explosion of color to the center. Here I'm going in with a smaller, more pointed tip to make a very small, delicate flower for the tinier Jello cups. It still gives a lot of big impact and a lot of petals. To continue on with this flower, I'm using the same style of tool but in a larger shape, and you can see that gives a big impact on how the flower looks like it's really blooming. Also, be very careful not to push too deep, because if you do, that's what happens. For a beautiful presentation, you do want some visual differences, so I did a smaller amount of the clear gelatin and a larger amount of the milky gelatin, but layered. You can do thinner layers, and by spreading it out, you can rock it back and forth. You'll be surprised how many different flowers you can come up with when you just start playing around with your petal placement and colors. They all turn out absolutely so gorgeous and will wow your friends. I'm just putting the clear base on the bottom to finish these off. Look at this big mama. It's always nice to have a showstopper centerpiece. Speaking of mamas, here's a little change of scenery. I made these for Mother's Day. So you're just going to set them in warm water to release that coconut oil, and then you can do two ways. On a cup or platter, you can flip it over, or you can carefully plop it over onto. Feel free to clean up any excess with paper towels. I gifted out the majority of these Jello shots to neighbors and relatives, but these were for my family. Just be careful about your Jello placement, because once it's flopped down, it's very hard to get back up. Look at these nice firm jellies. They turned out absolutely so beautiful. And now for my favorite part. Look how crazy that looks. It's a totally different experience on the inside. I love it. If you use a clear alcohol, you can get even more of a fantastic sparkling result. Even the biggest Jello skeptic couldn't turn this down. Look at this work of art. The tanginess of the citric acid balanced out by the creaminess of the liqueur and coconut is absolutely delicious. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and like always, have a great day and God bless.
Why are you doing it? It's perfect. I know, because it's a little nerve-wracking.